Hey guys, Mamie here with OneJoyousSkip.com. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to use this stamp set by Concord and Ninth called Grateful, and I'm going to show you guys how to use a small stamp set but create big impact with it. So I'm going to start out with some watercolor cardstock here. And I'm going to use the Thinking of You sentiment. It's a nice large sentiment. And I'm going to put that right in the middle of my watercolor cardstock. I'm going to rub it a little bit to make sure there's no debris from previous use on there. And I'm going to be using my Versamark clear sticky ink here. And it's for heat embossing and creating watermarks and so forth. And so I'm just going to stamp that right in the middle of my cardstock. Make sure it's pressed down nicely because it is a big sentiment. I'm going to go over it with some gold embossing powder. I'm going to tap off the excess there, and here I am just heating it up with my heat gun. And as you can see, it turns from dull into this shiny, pretty gold. And now I'm using my embossing buddy because I'm going to use the feathers in the stamp set to stamp along the outside around the sentiment. So it comes with a large feather and a smaller feather. And so this takes a lot of practice. Don't think that it's just like the first time you try to do this that you're going to get it. You're going to have to work with different sizes and different shapes to figure out what the best way is to lay down your stamping so that your card looks organic. It doesn't look too precise and too linear. You want for the feathers to kind of be all over the place, as if they had all just fallen on top of this cardstock. And so, like I said, it takes practice. So what I'm doing here is I am just trying to stamp the larger stamps first. That always helps to kind of figure out where you can lay the rest of your stamps. So you want to start with the largest and then work your way down to the smallest, using the smallest to fill in the areas that are kind of too spaced out. And we're covering everything here with that gold embossing powder as well. Just tapping off the excess. And I'm going to heat those up too so that we can do some watercoloring. And this helps with watercoloring because you don't have to be so strict, and you don't have to be so perfect with your watercoloring, because it creates these little wells. The embossing creates these little wells that holds the paint inside, and so it won't bleed out constantly. And so that helps a whole lot if you're just beginning trying out watercoloring and card making. I suggest to do the heat embossing. Okay, and so I'm going to be using my Distress inks, and I decided to go with the background. I'm going to start out with the spun sugar just to give a nice base color, and I'm using a large round brush to do the first part, which is just the background, and I'm getting the whole entire scene wet here first. You want to have a bit of moisture so that your colors can move a little bit better. And so, like I said, for the background, I'm going to be using the spun sugar. And I'm just going to put that over here on a laminated piece of white paper. And so I'm just doing this to create a bit of a background, a bit of a starting point, a wash of this really, really light pink. And I'm just going to go all over the back of the background here. And then after I'm done doing that and having a little bit of color put down everywhere, I move on to the Abandoned Coral. And I'm going in a little bit more with this color. And that way you have a bit of the spun sugar and you have a bit of the Abandoned Coral. So you have different shades of pink here. And I watered down the Abandoned Coral quite a bit because it is this nice strong color, but I wanted this card to be a lighter card. And so in order to do that, you just water down your color until you get the desired color that you're looking for. And so your cardstock can bend a little bit whenever you get it really wet. So I was just taking the end of my paintbrush and pushing down on the middle of my card to help it flatten out so that color could kind of come back into the middle. And now we're going to get started on the feathers. And so I'm wetting down the feathers first a little bit so that the colors will move better, because it did dry out a little bit while I was working on that background. And I'm using the peacock feathers to do half of the half of the feathers. I'm using the feathers to do the feathers. And so I'm watering down this peacock feathers a lot because it is a very dark color. And the color that I'm wanting to use with the peacock feathers is a very light color. So they wouldn't go together really well if I didn't water this down a lot. Now, I did go a little too light on the first round doing these feathers, but that's the best thing you can do. You don't want to, you'd rather start too light and work your way up than start dark and then try to pull that color away. So I'm going over all of the big feathers, and I'm going to do the peacock feathers towards the bottom of the feather. And I'm just dropping the color into the little wells at the bottom of the feather. You can see I'm not even painting. I'm not swooshing the paintbrush around. I'm really just dropping that color into the wells. And I am using my silver paintbrush here, and it is called Silver Black Velvet number 4 round, and it's a fantastic paintbrush. I'm not the only one that uses it. There's tons of other people that use this paintbrush. It's one of the best brushes on the market for sure. And so here I am still dropping into the well. I wanted to keep this coloring in here so that you guys could see you know, the process of dropping color into the well and then mixing it together with another color as well. And so now I'm taking the cracked pistachio, and I'm not watering down the cracked pistachio very much at all because I want to try to keep that color as true to its original color. And so I'm just doing the top parts of the feathers in that color. And it's totally fine if the blue bleeds into the green. That creates even better colors. So just let that happen if it wants to happen. Since nothing in nature is absolutely perfect and linear and all that kind of stuff, you know, it's better to have it look more natural by letting the colors kind of do what they want to do. Now I'm just taking some clean, clear water, and I'm just dropping some water droplets all over the card. And I just roll over that with my paper towel to take up some of that moisture to help it dry a little bit faster. And now you can see that that peacock feathers and the cracked pistachio is on those feathers, and it looks very light but pretty. But I am going to go over it again after I do this color because I did decide to go a little bit darker at this point. So now I am using the, let me think, what is that red color? I think that's the ripe persimmon. Yeah, that's the ripe persimmon, and then that is the mustard seed underneath. And so I'm doing the bottom parts with the darker color, the bottom parts of the feather with the darker color, and then the top parts with that yellow. And so with this one tiny stamp set that has 2 feathers and a sentiment, you're able to create all this, a nice background with a big pretty sentiment in the middle, and the font is very cool, and so it's coming along really nicely. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. And this is going to be part of my love series because I guess it has pink in it. No, but for real, it's February, and so this card is part of my love series as well. And if the numbering is all like off for the love series, that's because I already had predetermined a few of my other cards to be 1 through 4. And so I already have those sent over to another person to use on their channel as well, which is the Not Too Shabby channel, which is Scrap and Stampers, Jamie's channel. And so I already gave them over to her. So if the numbering is weird, don't worry. They're not going to be in order, but they will be numbered just so that people can see how many parts there are total. And so here I'm drying everything up, and I'm fixing that little feather there that had a little bit too much color. I'm going to take off that tape there that's holding the panel down. And now I'm just taking my paintbrush and fixing up some little tiny parts that had a little tiny bit of bleeding. Actually, I can't even see it on camera, but I was able to see it in real life. Okay, so I think it's looking pretty good as far as the coloring here. I'm just going to roll back over that with my towel, pick up some of that moisture because I am not patient enough to dry this thing with the heat gun. And then you just want to take a paper towel and kind of run over the embossing a little bit to take off any extra color that got on top of there that puddled up. And now I'm going to take my Gonze Tombi Starry Colors. I love this. It's so pretty. It has all kinds of different colors of gold. And I'm going to actually be using the white gold. And all that's going to do is create some really nice sparkle. It really doesn't put any gold color down at all. But it does create this really nice iridescent sparkle. It's just so, so pretty when you see it in real life. And I think you're going to be able to catch it on camera if we're lucky. So I just watered down that white gold, and then now I use my smaller brush to get smaller flicks. And then I'm going to use my larger brush to get some larger flicks as well. I say larger flicks, larger droplets. And I'm going to dry that down one more time. And I'm just really loving the just messiness of this card. It's just, you know, it's so fun and whimsical, and I think somebody would really appreciate this kind of handmade card. And so I'm almost done with the card now, and I'm going to take my double stitched rectangle die to cut out the excess around the outside. And I'm showing you the sparkle, and you can really see it. I was really surprised you could see it on film here. And I am going to pop that up with some 3M foam tape real quick to a top folding card. And that's basically going to be the entire card. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I really enjoyed stretching this little stamp set and getting the most out of it. And I know you guys appreciate things like that, and so I hope you enjoyed this. So make sure to watch the other cards in my love series, and make sure to stop by nottoshabbyshop.com for this month because I am guest designing over there. So thank you guys so much, and have a great day. I will see you guys in the next video.